Let's start off with Fateh. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh. What does this say? Who's you? Me? Not totally getting that. Okay, so let's start off. Who's going to become better? Is it like, what do you mean by me? So I need you to share with me who's me.
You are you.
You, I am me?
Yes.
You mean your name?
I don't know. Okay, so let's start off with your name. What does that mean? What's your name? Baj? Is there another Baj in the world? So it could mean 2 or 4 or 10 or hundreds or thousands of different Bajes, right? Take a seat there, Sujan. Idhar aao put. Okay, so where were we? Baj, right? Baj Singh. So we know there's a Baj Singh here, and we probably know there's loads of other Baj Singh. So which Baj Singh are we talking about? Okay, but my point is there's more than one Baj Singh. Baj Singh is not unique, right? So I asked you a question, become the best version of you. Who are you? So I want you to ask yourselves a question, who am I? And I want you to share some thoughts. Go ahead. So there's different Baj Singhs, he can become a better version of himself. Anybody else would like to share some perspective on who am I, like individually? Okay, so how about this? Hanji.
It's like your personality set, even though there's multiple Bajes, each of the Bajes' personality is different.
So we have different personalities, we have different unique identities in how we come across, right? And how we look at ourselves, right? So I'm just going to shed a little bit of light, a different perspective on if somebody were to ask you again at the end of this discussion, and I want this to be a discussion, hopefully you'll answer this question totally differently, okay? So here's a perspective. Go to the next one. So imagine, so we just covered off who are you, go to the next slide. Imagine the sun. You can imagine the sun, right? Really powerful out there. And you're sitting on a beach and it's a really hot day and there's no clouds. What's that thing that's beating down on your skin and making you somewhat uncomfortable? What is that? No, there's no rain. Ray. Is that a guy's name or girl? Ray? Oh, sun ray. I'm just kidding you. Yeah, because some people's name is Ray too, but that's not the point here. The point is, there's a sun and there's a ray. Now, does that ray of sunlight go in different directions, or is it just one way? Different directions. So the first thing I want you to think about from today onwards is when you start thinking about yourself and the part you're going to better, right, improve, first thing I want you to think about is every single person has a divine spark in them in the form of a soul. And they are part of the sun, which is, what do you think the sun is here? Sun is like Vaheguru. And all the rays coming out of the sun are all the different souls, the different parts of that whole. You know that Kulveer Singh introduced the concept of God, this oneness, this completeness, and he said everything is a part of that oneness, right? So now we're going to take that concept and go a little bit deeper now. So the first thing is we have a soul, and it's like a divine spark that's in us, and it does not get dirty. It's always in a state of itself. It's a part of God. Does that make sense? Yes or no? Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Next one. So then we have this thing called the mind, right? What Gurbani says about the mind, that this is also a divine light. But it's a little bit interesting. Gurbani says, Man tu jot saroop hai, apna mool pachan. What do you think jot saroop means? It was actually mentioned earlier on this morning. Light, meaning Vaheguru. Sarup means you are the form of the divine. Does that make sense? So now you, when I say to you, who are you? Now you're getting a little bit deeper, right? You're saying, well, there's a divine spark in me. There's a part of God in me. And now there's also a mind, right? That mind is also like a divine light. But the problem with the mind is that divine light, one layer down, let's call it, before we can actually connect with that light of the mind, it's covered with all our thoughts. So for today's conversation, all I want you to think about is your mind equals all your good thoughts and all your bad thoughts. It's the sum of all your thoughts. A little bit of math there. You guys understand that, right? It's the sum of all your thoughts. For now, I just want you to understand it from this point of view. Does that make sense? So if I say to you, who are you? What are you? You have a soul and a mind. Go to the next one. See, the problem with the mind is it can take thoughts that empower it and inspire it to do great things. Or it can take thoughts that disempower it and make it want to give up. Does that make sense? Okay, quick little exercise. We're going to try and experience the mind. Earlier on, I gave you a little exercise. I said to you, I gave you 2 instructions. I said, you're going to sit down, you're going to be quiet and close your eyes. And you're going to do the same again. Do it now. Close your eyes. I'm going to count to just 10. That's the only instructions you have. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Open your mind, open your eyes. So when you closed your eyes, what did you experience? Somebody share. Go ahead. What did you experience? What happened? Countdown was going on. Who was listening to the countdown or watching the countdown? Was it Bhavi the person? Was it the soul? Or was it the mind? So your first level of experience, when people say, we talk about the mind, you just experienced it. You know that your mind is making observations, it's thinking, it's always yapping in the background. Right now, it's probably yapping in your mind, right? It's like, oh, what's he talking about? Why is he wearing this orange shirt? You know, it's raining today, and I wanted to go out and play. And what kind of I wanted fries. I didn't get enough fries. So all of this that's your mind. So you're made of, and guess what? All of this is it visible or invisible? Invisible. So this is what we call the nirgun part of our being. Nirgun means, nir means without, gun means attributes or qualities, the qualities of air, water and fire. So this is not the human part of us, like in that it's not flesh and bones. But what Vaheguru did, he took all of this, let's call this your invisible part, your invisible body, and he threw something on top. What did he call that?
Skin.
Bone, your body. Flesh and bone and blood and veins and all sorts of other stuff. So, who am I? Answer that question. So you guys are a mixture. It's a lot more complicated than this, but at a very high level, simply put, we are a mind, body, and soul. Does that make sense? Okay. So now you've got to experience the mind a little bit. It's that constant chitter-chatter in the back of your mind. It's that constant... you're always thinking about stuff. Your mind is the sum of your thoughts for now. And then eventually we'll try and understand that when we get rid of all of our thoughts, when we connect with something greater than us, that experience begins that whole idea of the mind being the light. Okay, go next slide. So I'm going to ask you a quick question. When I say to you, do you believe that you can become a basketball player? Do you believe that you can become a violin player? Do you believe that you can become a soccer player? Whatever it is. Do you believe that you can do calculus? Do you believe, whatever it is, which part of your being is actually doing the believing? Mind, body, or soul? Mind. Right? So here, who here has heard this idea of meeting God, or merging with Vaheguru, or connecting with something bigger than us? Who has heard of that? Yes or no? Put your hand up if you've heard of that. And mostly the tuk of Gurbani people refer to is Bhai Paraput Manukh Dehuriya Gobind Milan Ki Eh Teri Bariya. This is your turn, your opportunity to Gobind Milan Ki. This is to meet Vaheguru. So let me ask you this now. If the divine spark is already part of Vaheguru, the body, well, it's made of flesh and bone, what do you think actually is going to meet Vaheguru? Is it the mind, body, or soul? Think of it. It's good. I like the fact that you're thinking about this now. Some people are saying mind, some people are saying soul. We'll try and get to the answer of this question a little bit later, but let's keep moving forward. So the first thing what I want you to focus on is this concept of belief, right? So, yeah, next slide. That's it. Okay, so where does I've put the answer there, but where does Gurbani tell us to focus? You guys tell me. Your mind, body, or soul? Mind. Give me one word that's in Gurbani that refers to mind. Man. Anybody know a tuk of Gurbani that refers to man in it? In an Anand side? Every time we do Ardas, just before Ardas, E man E man meria. Gurbani is saying, hey you, that guy that when I close my eyes is wandering here and looking at that guy's orange shirt and looking at bears and whatever else we were looking at earlier in our mind, it's saying to that, saying you stay with the Shabad. Does that make sense or no? Okay. But what I really want to talk about here is I want to transition not just in a spiritual way, right? I want you to get this idea that the mind is influenced by something called what? What's a mindset? You have some idea of what the mind is now, right? It's some of your thoughts, but it's really the form of the divine light, right? But what's a mindset? How your mind thinks, how you react to things. Hanjiput? How your mind thinks. What else? Any ideas of what mindset is, Sujan Singh? Have a guess. I'll come back to you. What about you? Any ideas? Mindset. What kind of mindset did Michael Jordan have when he was playing basketball? He had a growth mindset. What kind of mindset did Guru Gobind Singh Ji have when he said, Sawa lakh? Say it. When I will make one person, one Singini, fight many, many. What kind of mindset was that? It was a very powerful growth mindset. Now they were coming from a different place, but idea is we have to start looking at our mindset to understand what Gurbani is telling us to focus on. But Gurbani being one pillar, Guru Sahib gave us Miri and Piri, all the worldly stuff and the spiritual stuff. So I want to talk about both, not just one. So let's go to the next slide. So we talked a little bit about what mindset means to you, right? The way we think. We had some other comments. Would anybody else like to add anything about mindset, Sujan Singh? No? Hanji Singh Sahib? Would you like to add anything about mindset?
Putting your mind to something,
You're putting your mind to something. I like that. Like good stuff. A person's outlook or attitude towards certain things. Hanji put?
or be like a basketball player, but your mind says you need to be that, and don't keep trying, don't.
So we should keep trying is what you're saying. Yeah, so this constant idea that I got to keep going at this. Hanji put?
How your mind develops.
How your mind develops. All of these are very good perspectives on mindset. Let's go into it a little bit deeper now. Go next. Okay, I took this definition because it was easy to understand. And I need one of you guys to read it out for me. Hold the mic.
Okay.
As loud as you can.
Definition of mindset: a particular way of thinking, a person's attitude or set of opinions. Example. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So, we have a way of thinking that we already hit upon, right? We have attitude and we have opinions. Mindset. Whether it's in Sikhi or whether it's out there in just your day-to-day life, mindset is what makes or breaks us. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm going to give you an example here. So, we have this lovely Lake Ontario, let's call it, and we have all these sailboats, right? And these sailboats, there's only 4 or 5 there, but let's say there's loads of them. I'm going to give you an example here. The example is the winds are the same for everyone, but each sailor sets their sail in a direction based on their thinking, attitude, and opinions. That is their mindset.
And the question that we have underneath there is, does everybody understand how a sailboat works? How does it work? What is it? How does a sailboat work? How does a sail work? How does the boat move in like water?
The wind pushes the sail in the direction of the wind.
Okay, so what is the sailor doing with a sailboat? What are they trying to do?
Get to the destination.
No, what are they trying to do with the wind? What are they trying to do? They're trying to
Catch it, get it, use it.
they're trying to catch it. Exactly. So they want to catch the wind. They want to let the wind help them push the sail forward. Right? They want to use the wind to move. Right?
The pressure of the wind helps the boat move forward.
The pressure of the wind helps the boat move forward, yeah?
So the sailor, they wanted the boat to go in a certain direction that they want.
So the sailor wants the boat to go in a certain direction. Now imagine this near Toronto Islands. Who's been here to Toronto Islands? Anybody? You know how there's islands there and you can go this way, you can go that way. But let's say this was like, we were all out on the lake, we had our own individual sailboats and we were in a race and we said, okay, go. Harnoor might say, well, I want to do it this way. Sujan might say it this way. You might say it this way. You might say it this way. You might all figure it out differently based on your way of thinking, your attitude, or your opinions. That is your mindset. And you know what your mindset is based on? Something called belief. Who's heard of belief here before? Who's seen Vaheguru? Actually seen Vaheguru? Maybe in the physical form, because Vaheguru exists in the physical form, but there's also a form that's beyond the physical. And that Vaheguru, for example, if I say to you, do you believe that you can meet and experience and connect with that Vaheguru, how many of us actually really believe it? Do we believe it really? Actually believe it? Then that's what we got to get to. Because if we don't, and if I say to you, you guys are going to become the next Nobel Prize winners, Nobel Peace Prize, or you're going to win the NBA championship in 15 years from now. Do you guys really believe that? Yes or no? Okay, but what I'm here to tell you is with a different set of beliefs, you can change your mindset and you can do what's required to at least try Whether you get there or not is a different ball game. But once you learn that you can do that, that's going to be based on your mindset. Does that make sense? And everything to do with Gurbani. When we say do Santya, when we do Simran, do Kirtan, who finds it hard when we first begin? It's good, almost all of us, absolutely. But because of our mindset, we keep doing the things that need to be done. Whether it's Simran, Gurbani, Nityanim, whatever it is, whether it's math, science, out in the real, out in the day-to-day world. So everybody understands now, just to recap, that there's more to us than just this body. Does that make sense? Yes or no? We have a mind, we have a body, we have a soul, and then we have this mindset, and it's fueled by our belief. Does that make sense? And that belief sometimes doesn't necessarily have to be true. Right? If I believe something to be true, my belief still might be strong. Right? But that's the idea is mind, mindset, belief system. Everybody got that? Let's go. Next one, please. Okay, I want to show you a quick video.
Did you know that you can grow your brain? We go to school to learn, but we don't often talk about how we learn. We don't often think about what intelligence is or how it works. You might think a person is born smart, average, or dumb, either a math person or not, and stays that way for life. But new research shows the brain is more like a muscle. It changes and gets stronger when you use it. This is true even for adults. Inside the outside layer of the brain, called the cortex, are billions of tiny nerve cells called neurons. The nerve cells have branches connecting them to other cells in a complicated network. Communication between these brain cells is what allows us to think and solve problems. When you learn new things, these tiny connections in the brain actually multiply and get stronger. The more you challenge your mind to learn, the more your brain cells grow. Then, things that you once found very hard or even impossible to do, like speaking a foreign language or doing algebra, become easier. The result is a stronger, smarter brain. Scientists have recently shown that adults can grow the parts of their brains that control their abilities, like the ability to do math or even to juggle. When people work hard to learn and practice new ways of doing algebra or statistics, it can grow their brains, even if they haven't done well in math in the past. But it's not just about effort. You also need to learn skills that let you use your brain in a smarter way. If a weightlifter watched other people exercise all day long, he wouldn't get any stronger. You actually have to practice the right way to get better at something. In fact, scientists have found that the brain grows more when you learn something new and less when you practice things you already know. This means that it's not just how much time and effort you put into studying, but whether, when you study, you learn something hard and new. To do that, you usually need to use the right strategy. People often learn those good strategies from others, like teachers or students who do well. Luckily, strategies are easy to learn if you get help. The adult brain is like a muscle, and we need to exercise it. The best way to grow your intelligence is to take on challenges and respond with good strategies and get help from others. Having a growth mindset helps you make better choices and achieve more success. With a growth mindset, you can choose to work smarter, not just harder.
So math for me is always...
What do you guys think? Once you change your mindset, you can open up so many doors.
What did you guys understand from the video? What did you learn from the video?
Well, like, if you learn new stuff, it makes your brain grow more. In like, instead of practicing, like, stuff you already know. It's like, that doesn't help like that much.
So learning new stuff challenges us and makes us grow.
It's better to be challenged because you learn more that way. So instead of saying that you're not a math person and you can't do math, try challenging yourself, and then you'll eventually get better at it.
So challenge equals growth. Now, do you actually believe that challenge equals growth? Do you believe that? Once you start to believe that, if you don't already, or you start to give that even more fuel. Listen guys, leaders aren't just born, right? Guru Sahib put us on this earth. We're very fortunate to have Sangat. If we don't choose to do Simran, if we don't choose to connect with Gurbani, if we don't choose to connect with Sangat, you know what? We have some choice here too. We can't keep blaming Vaheguru or Guru for not giving us the chance. This is the chance to learn. You right now have a choice to not listen to anything that's being said here and think about whatever it is you might be thinking about. Or you have the choice to say, you know what, I want to grow from this. So one thing I want to actually say is attitude was one of those, is part of the definition, is so important. And attitude is the stuff, the way we express ourselves in the things we do, in the things we think, right? So they are all interconnected. Belief, mindset, attitude, these all start to develop us. Does that make sense? Okay, next slide. We just got to hurry it up a little. We only have about half an hour left. So we've touched upon this idea of growth mindset and fixed mindset, right? And this is very important. Who here has heard about growth mindset and fixed mindset at school? Put your hand right up if you... So about, most of you, about 30, only a few of you don't have your hand up. So this idea of a fixed mindset is that believe that you can. See, the key word here, believe. Believe that you can or cannot do something because of the abilities that you were born with. You believe these are fixed and cannot be changed. So, who here loves math? Right? Who doesn't love math? Put your hand up. Okay. I'm not going to pick on anybody, but I'm just going to say, for those that don't love math, what I'm saying to you is, with the growth mindset, once you start to have the belief, once you start to have the mindset, and once you start to do, you have the right attitude, you too can be good at math and enjoy math, as crazy as that sounds. Hanji. So let me just say this. It's actually a good point. And here's the point. The point is, just because you have a growth mindset doesn't mean it's going to happen, right? But let me ask you this. Just imagine us at the end of the road. The Vaheguru has given us a certain amount of breaths and we're at the end of the road. Are we going to regret not trying? Or are we going to regret trying? What do you guys think? We're going to regret. I agree with all of you. We're going to regret not trying. So I'd rather try and fail than not try at all. You're absolutely right. There's no guarantee here, but what you do is stack probability on your side. Just like in whether we believe it or not, in Sikhi, Simran is pivotal. Because Simran and repetition of Simran, what that does, it brings us to a certain place. Listening to Kirtan over and over again, doing Santhya, doing Vichar of Gur Shabad, that brings us to a certain place. But most of us don't have a fixed mindset, a growth mindset when it comes to Sikhi, because we're like, nah, what the Guru Sahib bakshish karenge ta. That's true. When the Gur Prasad happens, but the very fact that we're talking about Guru right now, this is Gur Prasad. There are millions that don't even know about this. If this isn't Gur Prasad, then what is? So there's different layers of Gur Prasad, right? So the key is, you're absolutely right. But if we don't believe, if we don't have the right mindset and attitude, then it's definitely not going to happen. And guess what, guys? People aren't going to remember us for all the times we failed. It's that one time you succeed. That's what they're going to remember you for. Did you know Michael Jordan, just from the worldly example, he used to play baseball. Cristiano Ronaldo, he just got transferred. Who watches soccer here? Cristiano Ronaldo just got transferred from Real Madrid to Juventus. Who's heard of Douglas Costa, a Brazilian player that plays on the wing, right? I can see a lot of hands going up. You know what Douglas Costa, they asked him about Ronaldo. He goes, this is Cristiano Ronaldo. He's at the top of his game, the most expensive player in the world. He goes, this guy is here before us and leaves after, he's still here when we leave. Do you think Cristiano Ronaldo, the Michael Jordans and so on, had a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? Growth mindset. And what I'm trying to say to you guys is you have the power within you, but you have to make that choice. Does that make sense? Yes or no? Next slide. So, something you said earlier, right? The thing with growth mindset and fixed mindset, it's not like a fixed thing. It's not like I have a growth mindset and that's it. I'm always going to have a growth mindset. Maybe every hour, maybe every day, every week, every month, every year, it might change. Sometimes it's fixed, sometimes it's growth. What we need to do is put strategies in place to have a constant growth mindset or constantly improve. Does that make sense? Yes or no? Okay, good. So how can Sikhi help change my mindset? Any thoughts? So I'm talking about everything here, not just about this, not just about connecting with Vaheguru. I'm talking about doing well in school, being a good person, doing seva, just being a nice, genuine person, and not trying to hurt anybody, and just being honest with yourself, right? These core qualities that we need to be a Sikh. Let's just say I want to prove myself, right? How can Sikhi help me change my mindset? Any ideas? So Guru Granth Sahib is the key. Do you know what Guru Granth Sahib means? I'm going to give you a different meaning, slightly off topic, but you brought up a couple of good points. You know, oftentimes we talk about Guru Granth Sahib saying, Pothi Parameswaro Ka Thano, like it is the residing place of Vaheguru, right? But I learned this when I started to do my own vichar and my own research. I went to Mahan Kosh, which is like a dictionary for Punjabi words, let's say. And in there, what I found was amazing. And I want you to learn this and take this away. Guru is the one who takes you from darkness to light, i.e. gives you the divine wisdom. Granth, one of the meanings of Granth is to entwine. Gundana. You know how you have a braid in your hair? And you take 3 strands of hair and you bind them together? The Guru is the one who takes you from darkness to light and binds you with Sahib. Sahib Mera Meherban. Who? Vaheguru. Who's heard of that meaning before? So today, I know you have. Today, I want you to think of Guru Granth Sahib in a different way. It's not a book. It's not a teacher. It is the one divine entity that will give me the light that I need, give me the mindset that I need, and join me to the one I'm trying to reach. That is what we call Gur Prasad. Does that make sense? Next slide. So where we choose to focus will determine if we feel good or bad, right? If we have a growth mindset or fixed mindset. These are some of the things little Singhji here pointed out to us, that if we do this kind of stuff, right? If we do Simran, we read and try and understand Gurbani, we do good actions, just put everything else aside, just be a decent person. Don't try and hurt anybody or cheat anybody. Just the simple stuff, right? But the thing is, in order to do that is mindset, right? And that mindset, remember that experiment we did? That chitter chatter inside? That's your mind. We got to turn that from negative to positive, from fixed to positive growth, from Tendi Kala, like always pessimistic, to Nanak Naam Chardi Kala. Guru Sahib's talking about mindset here, right? So the inner voice shapes the mindset. Let's keep going. And there's just one tuk of Gurbani I want to bring to you guys, just for your thoughts. And this is part of a bigger understanding where Guru Sahib and Japji Sahib is talking about the different states, right? The different khands that your mind goes through, right? And that's a different conversation in and of itself. But for today's purpose, I just want you, what does it say? Say it out for those who can read loud. Let's do a little bit of something. It says, Titha Kadiya Surate Mate Mane Buddhe. To keep it simple, they all have individual understandings, meanings. But just for the purpose of trying to understand it here, it's talking about transforming your mindset. You got to get to that place. You got to go from Dharmakand all the way through, and you get to that place where that transformation happens. So the problem is sometimes we do stuff, we do Simran, we do Kirtan, we do Gurbani, but it doesn't penetrate our Surt, Mat, Man, Buddh. Only when it penetrates this is when you will see the fruits. And it all starts with listening. Next slide, please. Let's play this.
The number one thing you need to know about the brain is that it is plastic.
So this is about how we motivate our mind.
Change itself in order to adapt. And when we intentionally make efforts to change it, it will do what we tell it to do. This is called self-directed neuroplasticity. To understand how this works, we need to know that each time we have a thought, cells in our brain called neurons communicate or talk with each other. They're actually sending electrochemical pulses, but we're going to use the word talk. Because it's hard to put into a picture or words how all of this happens, we're going to use a very simple image using X's and dashes. So let's say the first time we have a thought, some cells, the X's, talk to each other, meaning they send a signal to each other. It could look like this. Once cells or groups of cells have talked to each other the first time, it's kind of like they know each other and have each other's phone numbers, so it's easier for them to send messages. As these cells keep talking, they get to know each other more until eventually it's like they have each other on speed dial so they can send messages even faster. The more they talk, the more important the brain starts to consider this line of communication. In fact, once these cells have talked to each other enough times, the brain will actually start covering the pathways between them with the white fat called myelin, which helps their signals get to each other even faster. It's kind of like the brain upgrades them to high-speed internet or fiber optic cable, so they never have interruptions or slow signals. Neuroscientists use the term the cells that fire together, wire together. This is so important for us because this is how we learn. When you learn how to walk, talk, do a multiplication table, play a sport or instrument, you're getting those cells to talk to each other more and more until they create a high-speed pathway between them. Once you've done it enough times, your brain isn't using as much energy on building new pathways, so the skill feels easier and quicker. Just like the saying goes, practice makes perfect. While this is obviously so important, the same process can also be less helpful because these pathways are being built for our self-beliefs. For example, if when you were younger, you got the message from someone that you were a bad kid, you would have had the thought, I'm bad. And because there's a good chance you were around the same people over and over again, it's likely that you had many repetitions of the thought, I'm bad. So your brain decided when you were young to upgrade the I'm bad pathway to a high-speed connection. This means that there's a good chance that in many situations in your life, even as an adult, you're going to have those cells doing the talking and creating a thought in your mind that you're bad. This will have huge consequences on your relationships, school performance, and overall life success. But there's good news because guess what? Any self-belief you have is simply a thought you've had over and over. Our beliefs just feel like they're true because they have such thick connections in our brain, and they're the first ones to come up when we're in different situations. But just like you build those pathways by having those thoughts over and over, you can also break down pathways you don't want and build new ones that you do. The most important step in doing that is that you need to just be aware of the fact that you can do this. As soon as you become aware of this, all you have to start doing is purposely choosing thoughts that you want and that make you feel good as often as possible. This is what many athletes and celebrity performers do when they visualize themselves succeeding over and over and over again. They're rewiring their brains to do what they want rather than staying stuck in their fears or negative thinking. So to sum up, your brain changes according to what you tell it to do. You can rewire your brain to have thoughts that make you feel good and help you succeed. You just have to realize you have the ability to do this, and then choose your thoughts on purpose as often as possible. It takes discipline, effort, and practice, but it can be done. I've done it for myself and have helped many people do this as well. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Who enjoyed that video? It's nice, eh? How about that? Somebody just told you that you can be the best version of you simply by changing the way you believe, your attitude, your self-belief, the kind of thoughts that you take, and then ultimately that has to actually translate into action. So I can't just say I want to be a basketball player. I want to be a basketball player, right? What it means is I have to go out and start practicing. I have to get a good coach. I have to get fit. I have to eat right. I have to do a bunch of stuff. And in the same way, Sikhi is the same thing. That's why Guru gave us Rehat. Because guess what? Guru is using the human body. The mind is using the human body as the vehicle. And when we realize, when somebody asks, why do I have to do Japji Sahib over and over again? Why do I have to say Vaheguru over and over again? Well, science is telling us that when we do this over and over again, it changes the connections and the priority in our brain. Does that make sense? The choice is up to you guys now. Any part of your life, whether it's spiritual part of your life, whether it's just going to school. I don't have much time right now, so I'm going to go through the next few slides a little bit quickly. But I was going to play a little game here and just share some. We're done at 3:30, right? We're not going to have time for the videos, right? In the game. But maybe later on we can do that. So the one thing I think I've already touched upon, the concept of Chardi Kala. It's something you have to believe and assign in your mind. But there's something really important I want to get into, and I quickly want to cover this. So in all of that, remember in that second video, they showed at one point the people you hang around with and the kind of sangat that you're doing with them. If they're constantly telling you, you're bad, you're worth nothing, you can't do nothing, guess what? In your mind, that's what's happening. You're creating those connections in your mind and your brain and saying, well, I can't do that. And then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So the one way to start changing that is, first of all, if it's something that's close to you, like in a family situation, that's something you're going to have to work at and slowly get them to try and see it from a different perspective, right? Or you're going to have to maybe take some other actions just to help them understand. But the key point of this slide here is if you have people with positive, high energy around you, i.e. good sangat, right? This is where you want to spend as much time as you can. That doesn't mean you stop hanging around with the other people. What it is, this is the sangat that's going to recharge you, giving you inspiration. And then there's that neutral sangat where you meet somebody and it's both the same. They're not inspiring you to do better, become better, do something different, right? Negative, low energy, those might be, nothing's worth it, I don't want to do anything. And they're not giving you that boost, that energy to go and strive and live life to the fullest, right? So what you want to do is if you know people in this last one, you want to try and spend a little bit more time here. But the ideal is for both of these to be around sangat that's going to be positive, inspiring, and the sangat that picks you up when you're down, right? Those are the types of people you want to be around with. Does that make sense? Because let's go to the next one. So I just want to give you some key strategies that I learned when I was just trying to learn this stuff and just trying to go over different videos and reading different books, right? And this was, who remembers the gorilla example earlier on today? Remember that gorilla example? Hanji Singh Sahib, to see that gorilla example that you did with Kulveer Singh. That was like 2 hours ago, man. Right? So imagine that happens now. What I want to do is, you know how they were saying depends how you act? Well, through some of the videos that I've watched, through the learnings that I've been able to be involved in, this is one of the models that really actually works, right? So let's say that scenario that we played out earlier, two people bump into each other. What actually happens is we choose what side of the event we want to focus on, either positive or negative. So that animal instinct in us is, who are you to hit me? And then it's a straight fight. Almost like that animal instinct, right? And then that human instinct is, wait there, maybe it was just a mistake. But what happens is, something happens, two people bump into each other, you choose what side of the event you want to focus on, positive or negative. Then, internally, we assign an empowering meaning or a disempowering meaning. And then in that moment, there's a corresponding emotion, and then we decide what to do, and then we do something. If you can just take him over there. Does this make sense? Guys, pay attention to this. You can play with your kara later, right? That's probably really important, but this is probably a little bit more important, because this could actually change your life if you let it. Right? So, just go to the next slide, Karen. Okay. What actually happens in most cases, though, is something happens. The second and third point happen unconsciously. They just happen. Then we just feel an emotion, and then we just take action. Does that make sense? That's what usually, how it feels like. So that case where two people bumped into each other, and then after that they bumped into each other, there was either an instant animalistic reaction, or there's some kind of human compassion, right? So point is, unconscious is something that happens in the back of our mind, without a pause or thought. What Gulveer was talking about earlier on is becoming aware. The more aware we become, and in Gurbani there's a concept of achet and suchet. And achet is like this kind of passive, kind of just going along, and suchet is a state of awareness. Does that make sense? Next slide, please. So what we actually have to do in that 6-step process, have to really become aware of number 2, 3, and 5, which is an event happens, two people bump into each other. We have to just take a breath in that moment and say, assign a meaning. Is it positive or negative? Even if it's negative, we can turn it into a positive. And once we do that, do you think that'll change our reaction? Yes or no? Absolutely, right? And then the rest of the actions happen. So the idea is to become from achet to, louder? Suchet, from unaware to aware. This is a concept in Gurbani. Next slide, please. So we've already touched upon this, right? You guys understand this now? Whether you're learning a Vajja, or whether you're starting Simran and doing Simran for 5 or 10 minutes at a time, what happens is this. The first thing everything starts off with is discipline. That's the hardest thing to do. Because if you don't believe it right now, like your mom says, it's good for you to eat broccoli. Right? I could see your face was like, ugh. Right? Or your mom and dad say you have to learn Kirtan. Your mom and dad says you have to do Simran. Your mom and dad says, you want to go downstairs and play in the Langar Hall? No, you got to sit here. But what happens is with discipline, we start to experience a little bit of progress. From that progress, we start to get a little bit more confident. And then that circle continues, and the better we get, the more we want to practice. So whether that's math, whether that's Simran, whether that's Kirtan, you guys understand now that with a growth mindset, and you know what's interesting? They use the word discipline. You can substitute that for rehat. Your discipline, the daily stuff you do, your name, all the daily things that you do, right? How that can inspire you to become better, make progress, get more confident, and then the cycle continues. So I'm going to try and wrap this up in just 3-4 minutes. So this was just an exercise. I'm not going to do it right now. We just don't have enough time. But it's very important. I just want to give you this something you can. So let's say something happens in your life and it's significant, right? What I want you to do is in your mind, like have 4 boxes. On this side, this side, I want you to assign a really positive meaning to it. It could be anything. It could be the doctor tells you something that you got to sit in bed for 2 weeks, or it could be something else. I want you to assign a really positive meaning and an okay-ish type of meaning, and then a really, really negative meaning and a not so negative meaning. And what that will show you is when you do this, and the more conscious you become of this process, you know those 6 steps I showed you? You can actually learn that you are the one. Sorry, go to the next slide. You will convince yourself that it is you who assigns the positive or negative meaning to that event. And from a Sikhi perspective, do you think it'll totally change the way we respond to something? Like that gorilla example that Gulveer went through this morning? Who believes today, after seeing those 6 steps, that you have the power to change the way you react to things? Yes or no? Put your hand up if you think you can change. Excellent. And that was one of my main goals here, was to inspire you to know that you have that power. What happened? Is that the last slide? Oh, okay, sorry. So key things that we learned today, right? Discipline, progress, leads to confidence, and then that continues. Growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And we connected that to you being mind, soul, and body, and how the mind is the most important, right? But it all starts off with belief. What else? Mindset, belief, mindset, attitude, and all of those, yes, that whole definition. Very good. I'm getting a signal here that you guys are going to go. So I just want to thank you guys. So if there's any questions you have about any of this, please come and approach me and we can have a further chat. Thanks for your participation. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.